The fourth quarter of 2018 has turned out to be a wild ride for some investors as S&P 500 volatility has increased. While that volatility may have some folks feeling nervous and unsettled, investors working with financial advisors who manage risk proactively likely were not caught off guard. Hi, I'm Travis Robinson, and I work within our financial advisor channel management team at S&P Dow Jones Indices. And joining me today to discuss how they plan for risk and communicate expectations with clients before the fact are HD Wealth Strategies' Allie Schmidt and Stephen Higgins. Allie, Stephen, thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. So let's jump right into it. Sure. You guys are very proactive at communicating with your clients and getting ahead of things like what's happening this year. Mm-hmm. So how has the year looked for you?
Yeah. Well, you know, in your introduction, you mentioned that we set expectations for clients. And that's exactly it. You know, volatility, just like really any unwelcomed event, is going to be handled a little bit better and a little more successfully by our clients if it's, you know, practiced, understood, and almost expected.
Right, you're exactly right, Allie. And much of our process, our onboarding process, as well as our ongoing communication, is really centered around that idea of creating and communicating consistent expectations. You know, we can look back at historical data in the indices, and we can see what it's normal to what is normal when owning investments. Mm-hmm. And I think over time, it just it helps clients understand what that ride is like, the good and the bad of owning investments.
Exactly. And you know, I guess on an ongoing basis, just to kind of answer your question a little bit more, you know, what we do is it takes the form, our education, I should say, takes the form of client events that we hold in the office. Steve and I actually both blog once a month, and then also just kind of constant communication with clients. And we've actually created what we call a volatility kit. And what that is it's actually a preset group of things that we're going to do when different events happen so that, you know, that stuff is ready to go out. We want to make sure that that stuff is set and ready to go before, you know, waters get a little bit rough. And specifically this year, what we've done is when volatility spikes, we certainly want to send out a communication to clients, let them know, you know, hey, we see it too, and give a little bit of perspective to that. And then in addition to that, you know, when we hit a technical correction on the indexes, we want to make sure to send something out as well. And then specifically this year, in the early November, before those October statements were sent out, we also sent a video, actually just saying, you know, hey, just a heads up, when you open those October statements, they're likely going to be lower than what you saw in September. And just be ready for that. It's not necessarily bad, but to give a little bit of context to what's going on.
Yeah, this type of communication, I think, reassures clients in times of volatility. And volatility, stock market corrections are nothing new. They're to be expected, but they're certainly still unsettling. Mm-hmm. And we just think it's very important to constantly communicate to clients what the reality is when owning investments over time.
Exactly.
So are you using the S&P Dow Jones Index data across just the email communication in that volatility toolkit, or all the mediums? You mentioned videos and blog posts.
Yeah, and so, you know, really we actually use it across it all, that volatility kit. So much of what we're really trying to accomplish there is giving perspective. And so much of that index data is we use in order to be able to do that.
Right. So most investors have a goal in mind. And what would you say is typical of your clients? And then how do you measure their progress towards those goals?
Travis, that's right. I mean, goal planning and the whole planning concept is really at the center of what we do. And it's those goals that really are the compass that point our clients in the direction and the strategies down that road where they're headed. And we use a process and a communication system called My Strategy. And My Strategy is something we designed, that we branded, and it's a system that really consolidates all the information from the different software packages and financial planning tools into an easy to read and easy to understand document, in just I guess a consistently evolving document that really references the terms that clients use, the understandings, the mutual agreed expectations, all in line with the goals that they have.
Right. And what's really helped with that is that, you know, markets are unpredictable. You know,
right.
we know that. So one thing that we try to do is make the primary focus, not necessarily investment returns, but more what's the point, right? What's the point of these assets for you? And thankfully, you know, a lot of our clients, their goal is not to make the most money possible. Their goal is more specific. It's a financial future of some sort. It's retiring on their own schedule. It's sending a son or daughter, you know, to school. And by being able to kind of focus on the goal first, then we're able to put together a portfolio that then we can kind of discuss that volatility and have that conversation, because it's really more in terms of how do I reach that goal?
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, when the rubber meets the road and volatility spikes, I mean, it hits everybody, right? Everybody gets concerned, no matter how much we talk about that or how much we communicate that, we can't make it go away. But by going back to the client's personal investment policy, which is part of that My Strategy process, we're able to just appeal more to that rational side and bring the person back from maybe that emotional cliff that they're on, and again, focus on that long-term planning.
Exactly.
Okay. Makes sense. And so for a conservative client that's still in growth mode, though, and has to take some risk in order to grow, what index-based tools are you guys using to manage risk and to grow the portfolio over time?
Right, that's a great question, Travis. The answer, I think, lies in the distinction that there is a difference between risk and volatility. And by looking at historical data and blended indices, we can show that risk, and the way we talk about risk in the office, is the chance that something could go to zero. I think that's ultimately the concern that clients have, is as they go over the edge and the market starts a downward trend, they feel like the inevitable outcome is that they would lose all of their money. I think that's at the core of the emotion. We talk about volatility as something different, volatility being the amplitude or magnitude of the market movements in the investments themselves.
Right, and actually by using blended indices as well, the blend, then we're able to even replicate portfolios so that we can kind of show clients, historically this is how a portfolio has performed, and to be able to kind of create a little bit better, expectations when it comes to that, and then we can really determine what's actually the appropriate amount of volatility for someone, where not only are they going to be able to reach their goals, because obviously that's the end point, but also they're going to be able to stay the course. That's incredibly important, and really these kind of key concepts that we have, we think our clients are able and willing actually to learn them and understand them. And we've just realized that by spending the time to kind of focus on that education piece, as opposed to maybe the next campaign or the next sales piece, we've realized that our clients, over time have a little bit maybe easier time kind of staying that course and being successful.
Yep.
Right.
Well, speaking of staying the course, right? Historically, most investors have dialed back risk using bonds. To lower volatility. But in this environment, with everything negative so far this year, what are you doing besides bonds, or are bonds still a big part of your conservative allocations?
Right. I mean, historically, we would have used plain vanilla fixed income, right?
Yep.
To create that smoothing effect to a portfolio, provide some non-correlation. Right now, and I don't think this is a unique view right now, but with the low interest rate environment and maybe emerging from that low interest rate environment, we feel like bonds, especially long-term bonds, probably have some risk inherent to them that clients don't know or they're unprepared for. So we've had to get creative, and we've had to do things within client portfolios in order to keep the portfolios themselves safe and decrease the volatility without taking on that unnecessary interest rate risk.
Right, exactly, and in response to those types of kind of inherent risks that we kind of see happening, we've implemented the use of low volatility, for example, low volatility equity specifically, and then also market neutral strategies, in order to be able to take a little bit of that volatility out, in order to smooth the ride a little bit more, but still provide the necessary growth over time, because that's really what we've realized has been something that's kind of comes into play, where it's a little bit more difficult to get when you start taking out that fixed income pieces. Can we get the necessary growth? And by putting together portfolios that are in line with that personal investment policy, but still set up our clients for success in the future, is certainly what our job is all about. So that's been kind of a piece that we've been really trying to focus in on, set up clients for success.
Perfect.
Right.
Well, Stephen, Allie, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Travis.
Thank you. For more information on S&P Dow Jones Indices and benchmark resources, visit spdji.com. Thank you for joining us today.